Right. Hi, everyone. This is Alexander Lim, and welcome to another episode of Author Story. Our featured book is What Lies Above the Clouds, a true crime story, which, as this episode's featured book, is one you can check out by clicking on the Amazon link in the video description below. And as for this episode, I'm interviewing the author, David Allen Arnold, who is an Emmy Award winning cameraman who has shot footage for such shows as Survivor, Ice Road Truckers, and Deadliest Catch. So, David, welcome to Author Story. Thanks lots for being our guest.
Alexander, thank you so much for having me on. I love the topics that you cover on your show.
Oh, thanks. It's great. It's great to hear from our fans.
Yeah,
So,
you have a broad range of topics actually.
yeah, we do. We really do. So, David, start off. What's the sort of thing that you do in your regular job as an aerial cameraman? Just for the sake of those who aren't familiar with what you do.
Well, I just returned
Mm-hmm.
from the Aleutian Islands
Mm,
where I was in a helicopter flying over the fishing boats on Discovery Channel's Deadliest Catch.
mm-hmm.
And that's a typical job for me.
Right.
Um, I've also flown for Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
When we were in the Philippines, we had 18 contestants living on an island
Mm-hmm.
and starving to death and trying to
Right.
win $1 million. And there's a
Right.
helicopter that's flying over them,
Uh-huh.
and we will film their struggle to
Right.
survive in the storms,
Uh-huh.
the um, the games when they play to eliminate each other
Right.
or to win prizes on the show. There's a helicopter we circle around them and show the environment, the ocean, the water, basically the sights of the Philippines and the people who are there on the show trying to win that money.
Right. So this is not like like being a cameraman over, say, like a big city like LA or New York or something like that, right? I mean, we're talking about relatively isolated places. I mean, the Aleutian Islands, Survivor, the sort, even Ice Road Truckers.
Yeah, in my first book, I tell the story of crashing in a helicopter in Alaska,
Right.
which is so remote that if you stop moving long enough, there are things that will eat you.
Right.
And
Right.
I do also work over major cities, so
Mhm.
I've flown over every major city in the United States
Mm.
for the past 23 years.
Mm. All right. Cool. Right. So you've got a wide experience. So I'd like to talk a little bit, move on to the book. What made you decide to write this? I mean, I understand this is second book. There's a book previous to this, but was writing a second book something you decided to write because you realized you had to write this, or was something like it kind of grew over time?
Well, what happened was I discovered a bunch of gangsters who were running an illegal business
Mm.
at a children's school bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked them what they were doing and what kind of a business it was, they said, "We can't tell you, it's a secret."
Right.
And these are the scariest guys that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I would set my watch 6 times a day, and because that's when the school buses are there, and I would go and stand across the street and watch and make sure nothing bad happened to the kids.
Right.
And as I learned more about the organization,
Mm-hmm.
I discovered that uh, it was a group and a company that the sheriff captain said was run entirely by criminals.
Wow.
And as I learned more about them, I discovered that um, they were actually an organized crime ring
Mm-hmm.
that was partly being run by corrupt local officials who
Mm-hmm.
were allowing all manner of illegal activity at the school bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I took matters into my own hands
Mm-hmm.
and I said, look, organized crime is as old as mankind. I'm not going to change that.
Right.
However, you don't do that stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
This is where kids gather 6 times a day. And so I didn't intend to, but I wound up fighting with them for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of that, one of the only weapons that I had was to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So when they said that their business was a secret,
Mm-hmm.
um, I learned that that's how they do it. Every form of crime that we have laws for, including murder,
Mm-hmm.
they're able to get away with it because no one knows what's going on there.
All right.
And so I took that head on and I said, okay, what I can do is I can tell the truth
Mm-hmm.
about all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can put that information out to the public so that they have a warning not to go near this place or not
Mm-hmm.
to send their kids here,
Right.
and and maybe save a life or two. And
Right.
so
Right.
that is why I started writing books.
Mm-hmm.
This is the story that led me to write.
I see.
Um, and when I wrote this book, someone in the book business took a look at it and said, okay, well, I'm sorry to tell you this, Dave, but you have to write a book about you first.
Okay.
So I did that, and that's the first book, Help from Above.
Uh-huh.
And that came out first.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Halloween of 2018,
Mm-hmm.
What Lies Above the Clouds came out, which is the true and documented story of what happened at the school bus stop.
All right. All right. In addition to telling the truth, I mean, when I think of being in a situation like that, where the authorities, correct me if I'm wrong, but it occurs to me the authorities were kind of like, as they say, on the take. Is this correct?
Well, I didn't uh, ever find out what they get from it. The
Okay.
only the only motivation that I can imagine for allowing gangsters and thugs and killers to roam freely and without law enforcement
Mm-hmm.
at a gathering place for small children
Mm-hmm.
is money. It has to be most likely that they're somehow making money from this. And but maybe someday we'll find out if enough
Mm-hmm.
people start asking questions about this crime ring.
Right.
You know, we may get to the bottom of it. We may find out why police allowed men from a most wanted list to
Mm-hmm.
be at a school bus stop.
Right. Okay. But I mean, yeah, okay. But I mean, this must not have been an easy thing for you to do. I mean, taking on people like this, I mean, who may or may not have connections with the local authorities.
Um, I can't say if it's easy or hard in that way. I think
Mhm.
that we all have to decide
All right.
what kind of a world we want to live in.
Right.
And everyone talks about wanting to make the world a better place. Well, let me tell you something.
Mhm.
If you're not willing to take a stand to make the kids on your street safer,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. You missed your chance. That's it. It's as simple. You want to make the world a better place? You start at home. You start in your neighborhood. You start
Mhm.
on your street. And that story is in my book.
All right. Okay. And I can hear it in your voice. I mean, you're very passionate about this, and particularly since I mean, kids are concerned. I mean, for crying out loud, kids.
Yeah, I mean it's listen, gangsters are gangsters.
You're
I'm
online.
I'm a little bit surprised that even gangsters would have no concern whatsoever about small children.
Hmm.
I mean, that's shocking to me. We're all human beings. So if you're a thug, if you're a criminal, if you're doing illegal things, if you're stealing, it is what it is. That's always a part of human life. That's why we have police officers.
Right.
Um, but for them to do that stuff, for them to do illegal drugs, for them to sell heroin,
Hmm.
for them to commit murder in the presence of school children
Hmm.
is an abomination. It's shocking to me.
Hmm.
And to your point, I really think it's important for us to learn about this story, to
Yeah.
talk about it and share it so that bad guys pay a price. And
Right.
so that bad guys in other parts of the world will think twice before they ever do anything like this again.
Right. So I gather then that this is still ongoing. I mean, none of these have been brought to justice or anything like that yet.
That is correct. The person that we found murdered behind their building,
Hmm.
that homicide has never been investigated.
Okay, but I think you did mention before this interview that the FBI asked to read the book before it came out. Um, you know,
They
for,
did.
okay, how did they? First off, how did they? Well, I mean, we're talking about the FBI here, so maybe I shouldn't ask, but how did they know you were writing about this?
I met a federal agent on an airplane,
Oh, okay.
and I told him a couple of things, and he about fell out of his chair.
Hmm.
And he said, "Have you documented any of this?"
Hmm.
And I said, "I have 23 terabytes in the overhead bin."
Hmm.
He said, I'd like to see that." So this agent waited around after our flight
Hmm.
and looked at the materials that are on my hard drive,
Hmm.
and he was flabbergasted.
Hmm.
He said, "I need you to come meet with federal agents right away."
Hmm.
And so we did.
Hmm. Okay.
And they asked to read the book. That was about a year before the book came out, and they asked to read it um, before it went public.
Mm, okay. All right. Cool. And yeah, I was just a little surprised about at that nugget. And so all of this, illegal activity. This sounds really amazing. But uh, after you brought this out, like what as you did mention that none of these guys have been brought to justice yet. What has there been any movement on your case?
Well, I think the FBI getting involved in investigating it is a very important step. And I think that as more and more people learn about this story and talk about it, hopefully they'll bring pressure onto our public officials to clean this mess up.
Yeah.
Because I really think, this is just my opinion, but I really think that if we're going to live in a world that's safe for our children, that bad guys who are committing murder at a children's school bus stop need to be brought to justice.
Yeah. Goodness knows. They don't care about the people they murder. They definitely, as you mentioned, they don't care about the kids. They
I
really don't
actually,
care.
actually, I think that the bad guys here
Hmm.
are, I think they're also shocked that law enforcement never lifted a finger to stop them. Because when I talk to them, they have tears in their eyes.
Hmm.
So I never cowered in front of these guys. I stood in front of them for 5 years,
Hmm.
and I would go and beat on their door. And whoever came out, I would talk to them.
Hmm.
And what I found was that even they were sick about it, that
Hmm.
they had tremendous remorse and
Hmm.
guilt. And if you're committing a murder in the presence of school children, I think you're probably going to have some regrets.
Hmm.
And I think that even they are shocked that the law enforcement never did the right thing and
Hmm.
never punished them
Hmm.
for what they did at the school bus stop.
Mm. Okay, you're painting a pretty interesting image of these guys. They don't come across, it's like, the real typical bad guy villain we'd see in a TV show, a crime drama, or a Hollywood movie. These guys occur to me as being having some humanity to them.
Well, we're all human beings, and
Hmm.
yes, they acted exactly like you see in in movies.
Right.
So what the police did, they behaved exactly like dirty cops do in movies. It
Hmm.
was disgusting.
Hmm.
I mean, it is absolutely disgusting
Hmm.
to see police who are refusing to lift a finger to protect children. It
Right.
is foul.
Right.
And let me tell you something. If anyone needs to be caught and punished for this stuff, it's the police. The police who allowed this garbage at a gathering place for small children for 5 years,
Hmm.
they need to pay a price for this because they participated in every single crime that happened there.
Right. If not directly, then maybe, by what's this? By omission, by not doing their job.
I'm not a lawyer,
Mm,
but
okay.
I believe this. I believe if it is your job to catch killers and you hide a murder that has taken place, you are participating in that murder. It's
Hmm.
as simple as that.
Right. Okay. So right. Okay. So I guess this case is probably still ongoing. So I guess we'll learn about this as time goes on then.
Well, the story is in the book. You
Yeah.
can read day by day what went on, what I
Right.
witnessed, what I experienced, the sights and sounds and smells of it. It's all in the book. And it is a crazy story. And the bad guys are going to have a problem because I documented everything. I photographed and filmed everything that happened.
Mhm.
I took written statements from eyewitnesses, sworn statements. So everything that's in the book is fully documented. And I think that's what probably shocks people the most is that when I talk about something that happened at the school bus stop, you'll see pictures of the school bus stop. And I think that's as much as anything. This is a true story. Everything that's in the book really happened, and it is
Right.
fully documented. And this story is just starting. You're getting in on the very beginning of this because it hasn't really gone fully public yet. In a
Mhm.
sense that the story is just now starting to spread.
Mhm.
This is going to become a famous incident
Mhm.
because of what's in the book and the fact that it is fully documented.
All right. Okay. So yeah. So it's rare for most of us people to, to get on a story just as it begins. But we usually see like the end result, the end product, like a newspaper clipping or a news story or something like that. But it seems that this is, as you mentioned, this is really just the beginning.
Well, one of the things that I document in this book is how the media hid the truth about this for years.
Hmm.
Um, I literally watched as newspaper reporters would interview for 3 hours victims at the school bus stop, and
Hmm.
they did not print a word of it. What they printed was what the dirty cops said about it.
Hmm.
And if I think one of the things that will probably shock people the most is the fact that media, who are supposed to protect us and supposed to tell the truth about situations like this,
Hmm.
flatly refused. And they basically partnered with the bad guys to keep this all a secret.
Hmm. Right. So it's a real mess there. I mean, it seems that everyone's involved in some sort of hiding the truth.
There are a lot of lessons here, and I think that over time, I think a lot of people will have their eyes opened because I certainly did. In
Hmm.
a million years, I never thought that this kind of criminal activity would go on for 5 years.
Right.
And furthermore, I never ever thought that newspaper reporters, TV reporters
Mm.
would participate in keeping it a secret to keep the money flowing to an illegal business at a school bus stop.
Wow. Okay. All right. And yeah, I mean, when you say school bus stop, it seems like the most casual thing, but with this particular bus stop, gosh, there's a lot more going on in here.
Well, that's why I got involved. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no business fighting with organized crime. That's not
Yep.
what I do.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but I basically discovered this crime ring
Mm.
at a gathering place for small children. So the first thing I did was to go there every day and keep an eye on the kids and make sure no one got hurt.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
I
Yeah.
never stopped trying to make that school bus stop safe again for the kids.
Right. Okay. So, all right. So, if I may ask, is there, because I mean, based on your camera work, I mean, you do adventurous stuff and things like that. Is there something, would you say that there's something within you that kind of is drawn to this kind of danger?
I would say that I'm very honest in the book about my decision making. And I would say
Mhm.
that I definitely am willing to do things that other people won't.
All right.
And I do things for a living that other people won't do.
Right. Right.
And as I went day by day through this struggle against these gangsters,
Mm.
I I discovered the lines that other people will not cross, even
Mm.
at a school bus stop, even if it means letting the kids be exposed to danger. A
Right.
lot of people will do that rather than bring any risk of harm to themselves.
Right. Okay. So this is more like you being a stand for something rather than this is kind of dangerous sort of thing.
Well, Alexander, we all have to choose what kind of a world we want to live in.
Right.
It's as simple as that. In my case, the bad guys made it abundantly clear that they ran the town and
Hmm.
they could do anything they want, including murder.
Hmm.
And so it's up to me to decide if I want to live in that kind of a world. And I made my choice.
Right.
And that's why this book exists.
Mhm. All right. So, if not to put anyone in danger, but are there people who are helping you out with this? Any locals who support you in this concern?
I think that for the most part, people were frightened away by the bad
Mhm.
guys.
Right. Right.
And there are some people who, to different levels, were willing to either tell the truth or give an interview for the documentary that is coming
Mhm.
or um, go to a public meeting.
Mhm.
And so I took what I could get for 5 years.
Mhm. Okay. All right. But this has to be done. So hopefully, I'm kind of hoping that on a personal level that people will start helping you out here. I mean, more people on your side means greater chance that the school bus stop will become safe.
Well, it starts with people like you know, having this on your show, talking about the book. It starts with people going to Amazon, buying the book, reading it, reviewing it on Amazon.
Mhm.
I mean, that's literally what it will take to fix this is for number one is for people to start to talk about the story of what happened.
Right, right. Okay. So, all right. So definitely, this thing. I mean, this really strikes home for you. I mean, like we'd read stories all the time about this crime thing happening in this place, that crime thing happening in this place, and it's not like that. There are people affected. It's not just two lines in a newspaper, or a soundbite in a TV show.
Well, I don't know what level of evil and greed caused these guys to do this terrible stuff
Mhm.
at a gathering place for small children. But I hope this. I hope that other bad guys will think twice. I hope that there are consequences for the killers
Mhm.
in this story, and I hope that it causes other bad guys to think very carefully about where they are and who may be impacted by what they're doing.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, definitely. Yeah. I mean, think twice. Have the bad guys think twice about doing stuff like this.
Amen.
Right. So, David, let's say you came across someone, say an average Joe or Jane, who like you came across evidence of an ongoing crime, wants to do something about it, and you only had time to tell that person one thing. What would be that one thing you tell that person?
Well, it's the advice that I took in the
Okay.
beginning of this story, and that this story is in the book. I started to organize meetings of neighbors
Mhm.
to talk about the illegal activity at the school bus stop.
Mhm.
And someone stood up in the very first meeting and said, "I'll tell you how you defeat this. You document everything."
Mhm.
And I have found that that is the way.
Mhm.
That's the reason that this book exists,
Mhm.
is because for 5 years I documented everything.
Mhm.
And if anything is going to undo the bad guys, if there's anything they fear more than anything,
All right.
it's exactly that. It's that someone will document and tell the truth.
Mhm.
That worries them, that scares them. And it's one of the powers that anyone has over even rich and powerful people who normally get away with murder.
All right. So document everything. Definitely. I mean, documentation comes evidence, and with that kind of documentation, they just can't talk their way out of it.
Amen. And so we live in a world today where most people have in their pockets the power to take videos, the power to take pictures, the power to write down dates, times, addresses, names, phone numbers. Most anyone can do that with the power of their smartphone, which they're already carrying in their pocket.
Right. Well, technology is a big help then.
It's a huge, it's a game changer, and I think if we're going to learn anything over the next, say, 2 years,
Mhm.
I think that's it. I think the bad guys who are used to getting away with murder, the bad guys who are used to doing anything that they want, knowing that they won't be prosecuted, knowing that no one is going to stop them, I think they're going to have their eyes open to, hey, you know what? Actually, it doesn't work like that anymore
Mhm.
because in a little town in the mountains above Los Angeles, if you're running an illegal business at a school bus stop, you can be filmed, you can be photographed, you can be recorded,
Mhm.
you can be documented a number of ways with, like I said, the power of the simplest smartphone that people already are carrying in their pocket.
All right. All right. So, David, I have to ask this question. Given what you're doing, do you not fear for your own life?
I I look at it very simply,
Okay.
and I'm not really concerned of how long I'm going to live. I'm
Okay.
more concerned about how I'm going to live.
Uh-huh.
And that means more to me. And so that's probably why I do some of the things I do.
All right. Okay. Okay. I got that. So, because people think of people take on bad guys, they think of cops, they think of heroes. They don't think of average Joes like yourself doing this sort of thing.
Well, I really hope that as much as anything, people in their own lives, in their own communities, will start to reconsider exactly what you just said, which is, if I'm told that this is how it has to be and keep quiet about it or else,
Hmm.
you know, maybe I still have something I can do to fight against people who are doing something wrong.
Right.
And and so I really hope that the story in my book of step by step, day by day, exactly
Right.
how I did it
Mhm.
and what I went through will open their eyes to say, oh, okay, maybe it's not hopeless.
Right.
Maybe even in the face of unstoppable evil,
Mhm.
maybe there's still something I can do.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Well, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. So, David, in the last few minutes of this interview, are there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share to inspire our listeners?
Yeah, I think that what people will learn in my story is some of the steps that I took, starting with just gathering my neighbors. Everybody, let's get together on Monday. Let's meet at my house.
Mhm.
We're all going to share information. We're going to talk about what we knew.
Mhm.
That now goes into social media. Now you
Mhm.
can do that on Facebook. You can do that on Instagram. You can do that on YouTube. And I really hope that people learn from my story
Mhm.
some of the things that they can do easily with the technology that we have now if they need to even take on a really powerful force that's
Mhm.
doing something wrong in their town.
All right. Okay. Well, definitely, that's definitely both words of wisdom and action point right there.
I hope so.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, in closing, then, the book is What Lies Above the Clouds, a true crime story. The author's our guest, David Allen Arnold, and you can get his book on Amazon. So, David, I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for this story as it unfolds. And thanks lots for being an author story. Thank you very much for sharing that story with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if your viewers want to go to Amazon and there's a lot of samples on Amazon, you just click on the What's Inside button
Right. Okay. So
and
everyone,
you'll be able to see some of the pictures.
right, right. Well, yeah. Okay, got that. So everyone, go ahead and Amazon and check it out. What Lies Above the Clouds. Also, by all means, if you want, subscribe to our channel and check out some other interesting authors and books. So I will be back next time on our Author Story Weekly interviews with another great author.